let's talk about CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and we're going to want to style all sorts of elements. It basically allows us to tell the HTML document on how it should look, right? Choose the look and feel, right? What fonts to use, what colors, and whatnot. Okay, what backgrounds. And it used to be that at the beginning we just had HTML, right? And as folks started using HTML, it started becoming fairly complex what they were trying to achieve, right? And it wasn't uncommon that in one single page you would have 4, 5, 6 different technologies all inside of one single HTML page. Okay, you have the styling in there. You would have maybe reference to some applet that was running embedded on your page. Maybe some JavaScript in there as well, embedded in there. And you had to be a expert at all these different technologies. Eventually, it became complex enough that folks said, "Well, no, we need to make sense out of this. There's no way that anyone's gonna be able to be an expert at all these, right?" And eventually, these became, their own industry, right? That folks specialize on certain on certain aspects of a page, right? And this is certainly one particular aspect. The style sheets, the styling or making pages look presentable, professional. Okay, and you could go, all your career just doing this, making things look pretty, right? Or not. You could go along, an entire career with not caring on how this is eventually going to look like. Okay, and that'd be fine. In this course, we're going to learn a little bit about both. Okay, and so style sheets, it's a technique. It's an entirely different language, right? It's its own language that allows us to refer to different portions of a document that already exists and say, hey, you see that paragraph over there? I want to change its font color to green, right? And that other paragraph or that header over there, I want to change its font and its background color, right? And so the way it works is that there's 3 main ways that you can do it. That have different best practices or not. One of them is that right on the elements, right, of this paragraph, for instance, you could use a style, right? You could use a style attribute and say, hey, this I want to apply the following style rule or transformation. I want the default color not to be the default color. Instead, I want to override it to be that the foreground color is green. Okay. Now, this syntax over here is its own language. It's the CSS language. It's a CSS language that we are applying a particular property. We're giving a particular value, right? Every single element on the screen has a plethora of properties that are being applied to it. What font to use, what size font, the spacing between the characters, the spacing within the words, whether it's capitalized, lowercase. I mean, there's tons and tons of styling that already come pre-formatted for you. We can override those by using CSS. Yes, right. So this is the easiest way. It's also the worst way. Is we can write on the style element, right on the element, use the style attribute, and tell it right in between what transformations we want. Okay, and this is fine for us to play around, maybe here in class to do academically. Okay, but in production you would never see this. Right, it would be considered bad practice. This would be a nightmare to maintain, right? Because you're doing the transformation right on the elements, right on this page, right? For me to modify this and fix this, I actually have to go into that page and change it, right? It makes it really, really hard if you have the same color in these paragraphs in dozens of pages. I need to open every single page, right, and go change the color. It's a nightmare. It's a maintenance nightmare. But amongst ourselves, just to play around and discuss CSS, that's fine. But don't put it in your source code. We do not want to see any source code that you commit to Git ever having the style attribute. The next better place to put it is on the same page on the style attribute, right? There's the style element. The style element allows you to at least say that I'm providing the following transformation for all paragraphs. right, in this page. And you can say that this rule applies to every single paragraph, as opposed to having had the style attribute in every single paragraph in the page. Right? This is much more terse, right? So much easier to modify and maintain. There's only one place that I need to fix this. It's still not good because you might have a lot of these redundant in many different pages. I still need to go to every single page and fix it. Yes, but it's slightly better. Right? The best place is to not put it in the page at all. Instead, have it linked to a separate file, right? That it will be a one single maintenance point of maintenance, a single point of maintenance. Right? I can just go here, open it, make the change, and this will apply to all pages that refer to that one file. Make sense? So yes, this is always going to be the best practice, right? Of having a centralized place where I can make those changes. Nevertheless, here in academia and amongst ourselves, and as just to for time's sakes, you'll see me often do this, okay? But in your assignment projects, always use the link. Everybody good? All right. There's also certain things to consider. Is that the language here is it's not a programmatic language, right? It's a declarative language that says, hey, this thing, I want to apply this rule over there, right? And it could be that you might have different rules competing amongst each other, where this one says that the paragraph here, the color is green, but maybe somebody here says that the color should be red. And so that's a conflicting rule. It says, well, wait a minute, which one should win? And by the simplest of rules is that the closer you are to the element, the higher priority you have, right? So if you have a paragraph here saying that it's red, and this one is right on the paragraph says it's green, this would override the one above, right? So the farther you're away from the element itself, right? The least authority that you have, okay? And folks would override you. Make sense, right? Also, another basic rule is that the more specific you are, right, about your rule, okay, then the higher your authority, right? If you for instance, if you have an ID, a unique identifier, yes, and you say, hey, this paragraph with this ID, I want this color. Right? So you're being very specific. You're not saying all paragraph. You're saying that one specific paragraph. Yes. So the more specific you are, again, the more authoritative your transformation will be. Make sense? Right. Okay. So how do we do this? How do we style things? So there's a couple of ways. It's always the basic principle here is that well, obviously here this transformation is being applied right on the element. Yes, it's only being applied to that specific element. Make sense? But the farther you go, like in the style over here, or in the link, you're not right on the element. Yes. Instead, we are relying on being able to refer to that element. So there's different ways of referring to that one element, right? You can refer to it by the name of the element, right? This says paragraph, I want this transformation. I want to say the alignment of the text. I know the default alignment is left aligned. Well, I'm overriding that. I want them to all be centered. Yes, it'll look pretty silly, but nevertheless, what I'm saying that this paragraph, even though there's one paragraph here, this rule actually applies to all paragraphs on the page. Yes. Maybe that's not what you want exactly, right? You might want to be a little more specific, and not all paragraphs. But nevertheless, these two ways of styling always need to be able to refer to different parts of the document and what rules do they want to apply. Make sense? Whereas right on the style, there's no need to refer to it because you're right on the style. Make sense? Okay. So there's a couple of ways. We already saw one by the name of the element. The name of the element. Or you can also refer to different parts of the element by the class, right? By the class. There's an attribute that you can associate an identifier, a key, to that paragraph. Okay, and now the name class means that we belong to the same group somehow, right? We're in the same classification. That's what it means. Not not a Java class or anything like that. It means that we all belong to the same group, meaning that presumably this paragraph, there might be another paragraph, right, that has the same exact class. Right? A class is meant to be used multiple times. It doesn't have to be used multiple times, but it could be used multiple times. I can apply the same class background yellow to this paragraph, to that header down there, to that list over there. I can apply it in multiple places, right? And then I can refer not to the element, I can refer to the class from my style. Right? I can say, hey, all the elements dot. Dot means all the elements that have the following class, okay, this class, background dash yellow, this is what I want to do. I want to transform their background color and I want to conform it to be yellow. Yes? Okay. And everybody who's using background blue, I'm changing it to blue. And everybody who's using background red, I want to change it to red. So let's just demo that really quick. So for instance, here we have the, that's, where were we? There we go. So in this register, let's go back to login. We can refer to this username here, right? And in a style, you can say style, style. And we say, hey, grab that label, all the labels, and I want to set their foreground color to blue, right? And I guess we only use the label for the username. I guess we didn't use it for the passwords. Let me put a label right here real quick. Oops. So if I refresh, notice that all labels are now blue. I didn't specify which label. I could specify which label. I can say that this label has an ID. You could notice that I'm using single quotes now. Right? It's a good idea to be consistent and always use double quotes, but I'm just demonstrating that you could use either one, right? They're interchangeable here. So user say, username. So I can refer to the label whose ID is username. So with hash, and say username. So now I'm specifically talking about the one label that has that specific username. Notice that only the first one changed to blue. Make sense? Right? Or I can say that I can make a rule. I can say everybody who uses the blue foreground, right? Everybody who uses the blue foreground, I'll convert the foreground color to blue, and now I can apply that rule. Notice if I refresh, no one is applying that rule. Nobody's referring to that rule, but I can say, okay, I'll apply it to this 1H1 that has a class blue foreground. There it is, right? If I refresh, then, oops. If I refresh, notice that now the login is blue. So anybody who uses this new class of blue foreground will be applied the styling, right? Notice that label as well. It can be used by any label, right? But the same transformation. Make sense? Right. So anyway, there's three ways. There's the element name, the class, and the ID, and we'll be using lots and lots of these as we progress through the semester. So the style attribute here, we're using the background, foreground. Notice that we have the combination of red and white, background red, foreground white. We have the link element, just demonstrating that instead of having the style attribute or element, right, we are copying all that content to a separate file and we're linking it, right? And that's the best practice. Okay, so let's talk about some basic styling.
Hi everyone, Jose here. Please remember to subscribe and like the video. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. Thank you.